Hey, this is the Double Negative Podcast, a photography podcast by Will Malone, with your host, me, the titular Will Malone. In this episode, I want to talk about why I think photographers should ditch Instagram in 2025, or at least the Instagram mindset. But first, you can follow me on Instagram at Will Malone. You can follow my Polaroid and instant film Instagram account at Everyday Instant. Make sure to like this video, subscribe to this channel if you're picking up what I'm putting down. But the ultimate way to support me in this whole double negative project would be to go to willmalone.com and go purchase a print for your wall. I would be honored if you bought a print. I mean, it's crazy that people would want my prints. I'd be honored if you wanted one. So you can go get one of those at willmalone.com. But now to the topic at hand. Why photographers should ditch Instagram in 2025, despite the fact that I just plugged mine. Instagram is frustrating for a lot of people, I think. I mean, most of threads, seeing photographers on threads is like a lot of people complaining about how no one looks at their photos anymore. The algorithm doesn't show to their, maybe they have 3,000 followers and only 100 of their followers see their photos. And that's for a myriad of reasons. I mean, number one, maybe you've had Instagram for, as long as I have, which is, I've been on Instagram pretty much since it started in 2011. And so I have a lot of followers that I've had since then who may not even use Instagram anymore. They're not as interested in Instagram. Maybe they have other interests and they just followed me originally because I was one of the few people they knew that used Instagram. Maybe they follow me because I'm their friend. But the fact is that now Instagram is really good at catering to their tastes, and I'm not to their tastes. Maybe they follow a bunch of cooking stuff and they just see a lot of cooking content, or they see a lot of just non-Will Malone photography content. So those people that originally would see my stuff and engage with it just don't anymore because I'm just not in their interest circle. But Instagram is a Marvel movie. Instagram, everyone uses Instagram. Everyone sees Marvel movies. It's like there's a bigness to it. There's a mainstreamness to it. And quite honestly, it's flashy. Due to that mainstreamness, that bigness, that flashiness, it's hard for the photographers that are trying to think very subtly about their work, or trying to make subtle work, or trying to slow down, which is something you hear a lot now. That desire to slow down, that desire to not feel like you just have to pump out flashy content all the time, because not all photographers' work fits in that category, just doesn't really work for Instagram, because there's just no subtlety on Instagram. There's no slowing down. I mean, there are plenty of photographers and Instagram accounts that are able to grow on Instagram in 2025, but I wouldn't call it like the subtle, nuanced artwork that you may see in a gallery somewhere else. And so and not to say that work is bad. It's just to say there's a type of photography that works on Instagram and there's a type of photography that doesn't. I would argue that William Eggleston, his photography probably wouldn't work that well on Instagram. And the only reason it might now is because he's William Eggleston. But I think if William Eggleston were a new photographer now, or just a photographer working today, and he were to post on Instagram, I'm not sure he would have that massive of an account, quite honestly. And I just think photography on Instagram has to fit very specific guidelines, which is you have to get your point across within a nanosecond as people scroll. If you can't get your point across, if you can't be flashy bang within that nanosecond, if there's a lot of complexity in your images, if there takes to be a lot of absorption of the context, the story, like no one's ruminating over anything on Instagram, no one's chewing on anything. And I would argue that's the case for all of social media. It's extremely frustrating for a lot of people, especially when it used to not feel that way. But that was just back when the people that were on Instagram were like early adopters, and those people are just naturally more interested in weirder, less mainstream things. And then Instagram became mainstream, and those kind of people have to kind of go elsewhere. Artists don't really gravitate towards mainstream channels, I think, largely, especially the ones that are kind of on the forefront, the kinds that do maybe some like Wild Westy type things, who are her early adopters. Like I said, they're always looking for something new. And unfortunately, with Instagram, there hasn't really been an alternative to Instagram ever since 2011, which is kind of wild to think. I mean, there's been attempts, obviously. TikTok's tried to do it. Twitter, you can post photos. Threads, you can post photos. Blue Sky is apparently coming out with a photo sharing app, which would be kind of the first major competitor to Instagram that may even have a chance. And so there just hasn't been an alternative. So that, I think, is added to the frustration of Instagram. I started this by talking about like why you should ditch Instagram. So let's talk about that. Do I think you should ditch Instagram? Do I think you should just leave Instagram? Don't think you should ditch Instagram per se, but I do think you should ditch Instagram's like hold over your sharing social media artist brain. Instagram takes up way too much space in our lives. It really does. Like, I even catch myself when I'm sharing things, I always prioritize Instagram for some reason. And that's just because I've used it for so long. But it kind of feels like unconsciously a priority when it at this point is not providing me with priority level results in the slightest. In fact, I would argue that the priority, the social media platform that should be seen as the priority in your mind is the one that works best for you, right? And I have two that are really working well for me that aren't Instagram. And yet I still have Instagram as like this outsized bigness just unconsciously in my mind. And it's kind of annoying. And so I'm in this phase of just ditching its importance. I just don't care. If a social media platform is not working for you, we have to be unemotional about these platforms. Like totally unemotional, because we have work to do. We have stuff to make. We have stuff to share. And if that platform's not working, like it doesn't fit our personality, or it's just not getting us where we need to go, no matter how we approach it, then bail. Like, you don't have to use it. If it causes so much stress, screw it. Peace out, Instagram. See ya. I will be honest with you. I could not get my hands around TikTok. I just haven't been able to. I just couldn't. And that was partially due to the fact that I didn't speak the language of TikTok very well. The short form content to this day just doesn't speak to me that well. I put out these podcast clips. They don't do very well. I mean, but I just still do them because I know there are some people that may get enjoyment out of it, but I just don't find myself looking at short form content very often. And when I do, I kind of feel like crap because it feels like there's no substance to it. And I know that's like the mainstream way that people consume things now, apparently, but it just does not speak to me. And so I didn't like spending time on TikTok. I didn't like making stuff for TikTok. I just feel like it did not work with the way I work. And so I bailed. And I couldn't figure it out. I mean, right now we're living through this weird time with TikTok, so that's a whole different thing. But like, there are people right now who are elated about TikTok going away because they couldn't figure it out, and they're mad that other people are successful on it. I mean, I think that's essentially kind of what we're seeing right now. And I don't know if I could give a crap whether it stays or goes. I just know that I got rid of TikTok like a year ago, and I haven't missed it since. Like, I just haven't, because it's just not for me. Just doesn't work for me. I couldn't figure it out, so I just quit wasting my time. I quit having just headaches. I quit just like beating my head against the wall trying to understand or figure it out, because it's just not for me. YouTube, on the other hand, rewards me for being the long-winded blowhard that I am. So I feel much better on YouTube, for sure. The other platform that I've found that's really rewarding my sensibility, the way I think, is Substack. And Substack is one of these platforms that feels fluid. It feels like kind of like Tumblr. Like, you can kind of do a little bit of everything and kind of do things in your own way. And it also, while it is not a mainstream platform, I think the thing about Substack that works, because a lot of problem with these platforms like Blue Sky and things like that is that Blue Sky is kind of niche. Like, if I post on Blue Sky, like only Blue Sky people are going to see it. Like, no one in the mainstream is ever going to see my Blue Skies. It's just like weird, overly online people on Blue Sky. But Substack has those weird, overly online people, those early adopters, those kind of people that lean more niche. But the thing about Substack is that it connects to an actual email list. So if you have an email list, which I highly encourage you to have as a photographer or an artist, then you can plug your email list into Substack and then start creating in Substack, and what your newsletters or your publication that you create in Substack will send out to real people with real email addresses. So it kind of bridges this gap that really, I think, is necessary in a social media platform, which is why Instagram hasn't really had much competition. Instagram and Facebook tackle the mainstream in a way that no other social media network has been able to do. And so, in the beginning of this episode, I have not plugged my Substack, but I'm going to plug it now, which is basically that my Substack is the Double Negative Dispatch, and it's a place where I can go back to my roots of blogging like I would on my original website. Like when I started willmalone.com, it was just a WordPress blog. It was just, and then before that, I think I had like Will Malone photography at blogspot.com, and I would just like talk about photography. I would talk about movies. I would talk about whatever. And then I did willmalone.com, and that blog was movie reviews. That blog was when I had a wedding business. I'd blog wedding stuff. It's all kinds of stuff because writing has always been my, I think, original love, to write about the things that I'm interested in. But there hasn't really been a platform that allows me to like get that writing out there in like a way that people are actually interested in checking it out. There were things like Medium and whatever, but Substack, really, it allows me to have a newsletter, a blog, and then like a Twitter, all kind of in one. And so you can share video, photos, audio. I mean, and there are a lot of people that write a lot of really interesting stuff, because the people that are using it a lot of the times are the kind of more subtle artists, the more the less mainstream artists, the people that are early adopters, the people that are always looking for something new, because they're wanting to make interesting things. And I just think that Instagram started that way and then became a Marvel movie. And Substack may become super mainstream eventually, but right now it's full of really thoughtful content. And I feel like the engagement I get, while the numbers aren't always as high as Instagram, higher quality engagement. It's real people who actually really take an interest. It's not just usually a passing like. It's actual like, oh, I really like this or whatever. Since starting my Substack, I had an email list, and then I imported it in the Substack, and now it's like tripled, since putting it on Substack. And I find it's been a really effective way to reach the kind of people that I want to reach, because I think a lot of the stuff I do isn't always so flashy. Sometimes it is, but it's like, again, like I said, I'm long-winded. There's a shallowness to Instagram. There's a shallowness to TikTok, because a lot of people are, it's kind of about skin deep stuff, because it's all so instant. There's so much to look at, and it's got to grab you bang, 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 bang now. And just not everybody's good at that. And I think we've been like convinced that if you're not good at getting somebody's attention within a split second, Mr. Beast style, then you failed. Then you're not valid. You're not somebody who's worth following. Your photography is bad. Your work is not good. But I think that that's like really unhealthy, really like bad for society to believe that, because there is all kinds of stuff out there. There's all kinds of niches. There's all kinds of communities out there that we don't even know exist, and yet they are super passionate and lively. And we just often don't go that deep. It's why last week when I brought up how limited a lot of photography YouTubers are, thinking about like the 3 or 4 different kinds of videos they can create on YouTube, which is that if you are limited to only thinking you can only make things one way in one style, then you're probably not consuming enough. You're probably not going deep enough and seeing what's out there. Because the deeper I go on YouTube, the deeper I go on Substack, I'm always shocked by what is out there that gets a ton of views or ton of engagement that I would have never expected for it to have a community, because it's so obscure. Like they say, there is an ass for every saddle. We don't have to like be in all of the saddles. Right now we live in a time where social media is very fractured. You feel like you have to be on, Instagram, TikTok, Substack, Blue Sky, Twitter, Threads, and maybe you do, but I just don't think you do. I think you just be on the ones that you can be best at and the ones that are best for you. And then, quit beating yourself up about not being good at speaking the TikTok language or the Instagram language. Like, you don't have to do any of those things. Like, the big obvious stuff is what everybody talks about. And we're constantly told that there's like a minimum requirement of things we have to do to be a photographer. But the fact is, there is no requirement. There's just the way you do it. And yeah, I mean, it may not work immediately. You may have to figure out how to fit yourself in some sort of communication way, but that's just like honing. I think it's way more useful to figure out how to communicate what you're about than how to communicate, the way Instagram wants you to communicate. And I would rather spend more time honing what I'm about and what I'm interested in and what I would like to say, and then see where that fits best, rather than trying to mold myself into an Instagram person or mold myself into a TikTok person. Like, I've tried that and it just doesn't work for me. I don't fit very well in those channels. And maybe eventually I'll have the time and resources to like really figure out what that means. But like right now I'm a one-man show. I don't have the time or resources to do all that. I'm just trying to be really, really good at the things I know right now I can be really good at, which is talking for way too long on a podcast. And that's the other thing about Instagram too. And I actually do think that photographers should ditch an aspect of Instagram that I'm about to address, which is the consumption of Instagram. Just this morning, I was laying in bed. It's Sunday. I was just laying in bed and I was scrolling reels for no reason at all. See what's out there. And it was just like stuff on there that caught my eye. I'm really into like different kinds of LED lighting right now. And so I got a lot of stuff about different cool lights. I got some comedy clips. I got some artists doing weird things. I got some weird Polaroid stuff. And so it keeps me scrolling, but I walk away unsatisfied because a lot of it is a Marvel movie. It's all stuff that, I'm gonna like, but I never feel like I can take something away. I don't feel like I could connect with anything deeper with short form video. And I just much prefer to like feel like I'm learning something. And oftentimes what I learn on Instagram is like how to, recipes and stuff, obviously, like there's good food stuff on there. But like oftentimes I find that my takeaway from seeing Instagram reels or Instagram posts is like, oh, that's a good idea on how to get more engagement. That it feels like I'm paying more attention to the game than I'm paying attention to the actual thing, because the actual thing often isn't that good. And so I always feel gross after I just scrolling on Instagram for a long period of time. And so I do think that we should ditch spending so much time looking at garbage. Like, if your creative inspiration is a Marvel movie, and again, I sound like I'm talking crap about Marvel movies. I think there is a place for Marvel movies. I enjoy some Marvel movies. I think it's healthy to go see Marvel movies as well as, watching Criterion movies. I don't know. I think it's healthy to have a balance. But if your creative inspiration is coming from the big obvious things, the Marvel movies, the mainstream fare, then I think you need to look a little deeper. I think you need to go smaller. Find the less obvious things, because everyone's doing what's obvious. Kind of like I talked about last week, that gear videos on YouTube are an obvious thing to make, right? Because that's what all the successful people are doing. That's what they say to do. That's what the numbers say to do. But then there's somebody over here, like there's this guy I just saw the other day. Somebody commented on my channel saying, hey, you should check out this guy. What was his name? Posey. Okay. This YouTube channel, and shout out to Posey. I don't know anything about Posey. One of my commenters said, hey, you should check out Posey. And it's like, I don't even know what this channel is. I don't even understand it. It's just a dramatic British guy voice talking about like, I don't know, the sunrise or like a radio. And they're like beautiful videos. They're very well shot. And apparently the reason one of my commenters said is because I do the music for my channel. And so he said, check out this guy. He does the music for his channel. So he does all his own music, and he does these beautiful shots of things like, let's see, he's got crazy videos. Yeah, he just released one yesterday, Space Hi-Fi. And it's a picture of, I guess, like a speaker system. And he's got another video on here, household objects, but extremely close. And it's just like videos of like really cool videos of household objects, him describing them, and then dramatic music playing above them. Like, what category is that? Like, we're told to think in categories, but he's got 383,000 subscribers. And I'm not sure I could categorize what Posey is doing, right? And there's so many channels like that I just don't even understand like how they're getting away with this. You know, I mean, I feel the same way about David Lynch. Like, I don't know how he got away with Lost Highway or Wild at Heart or Mulholland Drive, movies that somehow became somewhat mainstream, and yet there is nothing about them that would tell, like, the mainstream would like. And then he does things that people just don't understand in the movie. Like, I just rewatched Lost Highway the other day. Lost Highway is a insane movie. It is so dark. First off, it's probably one of his darker movies. It's dark, kind of two different movies in one, and the transition from the first half to the second, like, would whiplash anybody in a movie theater nowadays. Like, no one has the patience for what Lost Highway is now. You know, it's an American classic at this point. It's like it's in the Criterion Collection. It is a important work of our cultural history, but it doesn't make sense that he would have gotten away with that. And so, yeah, there's so many options. There's no limits to what you can do. And if you stay on Instagram and if you scroll around on Instagram, you're just told, well, this is how you get big on Instagram. This is how you get seen. This is how you get followers. You have to do this, you know, this and this. And that's just that's like such a tiny, small way to think. And it's just so frustrating to me because the deeper you go, the more you see stuff like Posey that doesn't like make sense. The more stuff you find that doesn't fit in a category, but yet has a super huge following. I think the point of all of this, and this is something I've been trying like hell to figure out for myself for the last 15 years, which is you have to figure out how to be the best at doing what you do. And no one can compete with that. No one can be you. No one can compete with what you do. You just have to become aware of what you do. You have to become like comfortable in your own skin, understand what you're about, and then figure out how to be the best at it. And that's all I've been doing and I go down ways where I try to be other things and other people and try to do what Instagram tells me to do and TikTok and all this stuff. I've done everything and failed at even more. But the fact is like my goal through my whole career is like, okay, obviously I'm Will Malone. There's no shaking that. I'm trapped in here. I'm trapped in this meat suit, right? I can't not be Will Malone. So how do I become the best at being Will Malone that I can possibly be? And that's our goal. And maybe the best at being Will Malone, maybe Double Negative is a YouTube channel that, you know, maxes out at 20, 30,000 subscribers, which I think I got more in me than that. But who knows? Maybe that is the max. I don't know. It could be. All I know is that I have to try to be the best at being Will Malone and expressing what Will Malone's about. So should you ditch Instagram in 2025? Sure. Why not? Screw it. Get rid of it. If it's stressing you out, if you can't get your hands around it, just bail. Try YouTube. Try Substack. Go on Blue Sky. Just do what fits you and how you express yourself. Don't let the platforms decide for you. Don't let the platforms have power over you. You should diversify because, you know, TikTok is banned kind of, sort of. I mean, I can't download it on the App Store now, so it's banned to people who didn't have it on their phones, banned to new people. So, like, and then, you know, the day that TikTok was deleted, there was just like a lot of wailing and gnashing of teeth because everyone built their entire worlds around one thing. So you don't want to be in that position. But you want to be in a position that you have your ways of communicating and expressing what you're about and what your photos are about, and then forget about everything else. Who cares? Who cares what this guy over here is doing? Who cares about this new platform over here? It doesn't matter. It's all about honing and getting better at expressing what you're about. And if what you're about is uncategorizable, then just be really good at the thing you're good at. Just get really good at it, and the category won't matter anymore. I truly believe that. This was an intense one. Thanks for watching. I really appreciate everyone that follows. I really, the past few videos, I've started to get like a momentum, and I've really appreciated the people that have reached out, the people that have shared, the people that have started discussions in the comment section. Like, I really appreciate this. I'm trying to get really focused on ranting into a camera. I'm excellent at ranting, trying to do it in a bit more of an organized way. So I really appreciate everybody who's been supportive. and who's been following along. It's crazy. It's crazy to like get a message that says, hey, dude, loving the podcast. It's great. Like, that's crazy because I've been kind of doing this forever, but it's just now people are like starting to notice, and it means a lot because it's been a lot of hard work to even get, I'm almost to 3,000 subscribers on YouTube. Crazy. It's hard for me to imagine, and I'm really appreciative. Thanks for watching. You can follow me on Instagram. It feels silly plugging my Instagram. You can follow me on Instagram at Will Malone. Follow my Polaroid and Instant Film Instagram accounts. Everyday Instant. You can go to my Substack, the Double Negative Dispatch on Substack. Comes out every Thursday. It's a great newsletter. I've really feel like it's molding into really what I want it to be, and I'm really excited about it. This week's going to be a fun one. You can, of course, like this video, subscribe to this YouTube channel if you're picking up what I'm putting down. You can listen to the audio version of these podcasts on your favorite podcast app, just in case you don't want to look at this face. And yeah, thanks for watching, and I will see you again soon.